Good evening, everybody. My name is Aaron Smith. I'm the College and Career Counselor here at Newburyport High School. This is our College Planning Night for juniors. Thank you guys so much for coming. I know we'll have other people join us as they come in. Hopefully the cold weather wasn't keeping them because it's going to get colder, so hopefully they can do that. We are recording as well too from our wonderful media hub, so I will send out the link for that as well after we go through everything for tonight. So quickly, I hope you all got the agenda as you came in. It kind of just goes over how we're going to structure for tonight and go through. So I'm going to be talking about most of our things that we have here for college and career readiness and just the process in general. Brian Gardner from College of Florida will be talking about our financial aid ins and out. And then I'll talk a little bit about College Guidance Network that we use and some of our other schools in the area use. And then we'll have our college panel discussion with our college colleagues. So on the back of your agenda, there is a QR code. So at the point you want to ask questions, if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand or standing up and asking questions, you can click that and ask a question right there on the QR code, and I'll have it when we get to that point when we have the panel discussion. So feel free to keep those in there and ask as many questions as you want. Also on the bottom of that agenda page are questions to ask. So if you're like, I try to have that on there for you as well. Okay, so paths after high school. Here at NHS, we recognize that graduates pursue so many different post-secondary plans. So whether that's a gap year, PG year, private school, work experience, starting an apprenticeship, joining the military. There's lots of exciting opportunities around. And we really want to make sure that our students are prepared and understand all the possibilities that there are for post-secondary planning. As really no one size fits all. We really want to meet kids where they're at and support them through that process. So we have lots of different things throughout the year for our juniors. Lots of workshops will be coming up in the classroom. So please make sure, and I know you already get a million emails from me, but please you're reading those the best that you can. And if you have questions at any time, please email me or counseling team. We're always available. It's never too early to start planning, so hopefully most of you guys are juniors, maybe there's some sophomores and people in the room as well. We work here towards our portrait of a graduate so that students have that kind of flexible post-secondary plan. I started the last 4 years working with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so some of you were part of that. We have tours, so we take our students to Endicott, Merrimack, Salem State, where we're going this year, and then also 8th grade has a whole career speaker series. So we're really trying to help kids understand not just going to college campuses, but also the career piece and hearing from people from the different areas that are out there. We hear from policemen and firemen and lawyers and doctors and people in our own community, which is really cool. So a lot of things around that college planning. These are some of the curriculum that we have. As I'm sure you probably already heard, we changed this year from advisory to our onward block. And we're really doing well with that. We really enjoyed it. I think the seniors are a little like, what is this? Because it's another thing that changed for them this year, but they're getting through it. But for our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, it's really been helpful to help them through the process. And we have a lot of different things, as you can see, throughout that curriculum and planning. We did a lot of curriculum planning this summer. There was a team of us that got together to put some of these things together. Some of it were parts that we already had, and some were new things that we incorporated into it as well. So 9th graders work with our Ignite program. So if you guys were here during that, when you're 9th graders, it's such an amazing program. We're now using school links for all of our college and career readiness. I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. For parents maybe who haven't seen it, I'm sure your sons and daughters are running right home to show you school links, but it is a really cool platform, and I'll show you that as well. And then same thing with College Guidance Network, which really is more for our parents on that side, and I'll show you the roadmap and how to use that as well too. We do a bunch of career interest surveys and assessments and school links, again, through the Onward block, which if you don't know what Onward block is, it's a time that we have now scheduled for about half an hour, 40 minutes, depending on how long we need to get through, where we're actually doing these things in the classroom. Last year was about 15 to 20 minutes if they actually got their butts in the seat while they were there. So really gives them more time. It's usually about a couple of times a month that we have these onward blocks during the student schedule, right in the middle of the day around lunchtime. And we also have our really cool events that the Institute for Savings puts on for us with our Credit for Life. So all juniors will go in May down to the Salem State University, and we take buses, and every junior comes with me with that. And then they also do a Get Smart About Credit event for all of our seniors, which we just had in December. So we really try to help them understand, obviously, the financial piece of not only paying for college, but after, what's life going to be like when you're 25, 26 years old, and you have all these bills and responsibilities to go through. We help them create a resume, which again, SchoolLinks is great for that. And we really are trying to push the LinkedIn account as, it's 2026 now, and everything's going to be online eventually with resumes, and we're already seeing a huge trend in that from our college graduates who are now on that and using it to network really strongly. College and Career Planning Night, which you guys are here tonight, which is a great event. We have our scholarship workshops for our seniors, which we'll have in February. We have college visits, which juniors and seniors can come to in the fall. So if any juniors were here that came, that's great. But next year, as you're a senior, we definitely encourage that. If you want to do a job shadow, if you want to go on an internship, we have lots of different things available. We also do all of our PSATs for our 10th and 11th graders. So if you've already taken that a couple years, that really helps prepare you for your SATs, which there are a lot of schools that are test optional now. But we do recommend students take the SAT at least once, just to have it. It lasts for 5 years in case you do a transfer or something, or there's the real reason is that there might be a scholarship that you apply for that requires an SAT, and we would hate for you to miss out on that opportunity. So we do usually tell students to take the SAT or an ACT, either one, whichever works better for you. We have college essay workshops, and then during the summer, I run a summer boot camp, usually Wednesdays in August. Hopefully that'll be coming out soon as well too. Some of our college and career program examples of things we have, a few of them I just talked about, but as well for the spring we have our college fair coming up on April 2nd. We have our college visits, which happen in the fall time, career speakers throughout the year. It was just the USA Fair down in Boston on January 10th for gap year, and Junior College Planning Night. And then we do have military recruitment that comes in the fall and also throughout the spring as well, and they come to the College and Career Fair. We have college campus tours, scholarship information sessions, our workshops for financial aid. Brian and his team come in and meet with our students if needed. We have, again, our really robust internship program. This year we have 97 students doing an internship, which we're really excited about. Our innovation career pathways are different designations that we were given by the state of Massachusetts. I'm going to name them off. We have manufacturing, healthcare, and also, manufacturing, healthcare, and environmental science. Dr. Hodge is very mad that I forgot that one. So those are designations and pathways that we currently have that students can take, not required, and they also have internships built into them as well too. We started a few years ago with our trade program, so if students aren't really ready to go to college or thinking about college, but they want to go into a trade, we work with the Peterson School. We've had about 8 students over the last 3 years who have gone through that program. We're really excited. And this year we have our first student who's going through the Root Culinary Training Program, which is down in Salem, Massachusetts. So anybody thinking about going into the culinary arts, we have that. The trade programs through Peterson, we pay for, which is pretty awesome. So it's an outside of school thing, almost kind of like you're taking dual enrollment classes while you're still here at the high school. And the same thing with Root, but Root actually pays students to go and get trained to be culinary art people. So different programs for that, which I'm happy to talk about. We do our ASVAB testing. If you haven't seen my email, that's coming out on February 12th. That career assessment's really awesome, and if you're kind of thinking like, I don't really know what I want to do yet, or I have all these different ideas, that's a great assessment. Everybody kind of thinks about the ASVAB as being a military assessment because that's where it started, and that's fine. You do not have to apply. There's no recruitment happening during that evaluation. I make sure that doesn't happen. And then if you decide to, awesome. If you don't, there's no hindrance for the military. So come and take that if you want to do that. Just shoot me an email and I can get you on the list. Like I said, SchoolLinks, I'll be going over that training as well. We do a lot of application support with our counseling team and myself. A lot of college essay writing, they'll be doing that in their junior year English class as well too. We have over 150 different community partners that we work with for our internships and job shadows and career speakers. So a lot of people in our community. If you're a community member that wants to get involved, please definitely come and see me for that as well too. And then I have a ton of information on our high school website, which I'll show you in a minute as well. And then I do have an Instagram page. Our counseling office has an Instagram page. So we're trying to send as much stuff out as we can as we go. So please feel free to always check on those resources as well. I'm not going to go through all these, but these are a list of our resources. All these are on the website as well too, with hyperlinks. And I'm going to send this presentation out to all the juniors and families after tonight as well, so you'll have all this information. And a lot of the information you grabbed from the table out there, some of the checklists and some of the timelines have a lot of this on there as well too. Because some of it's just stuff we're always going to want you to be using. When we get into the actual application process, we use the Common application. There's other applications out there as well too, but the Common app is really the most robust one that we use. And then the other ones are just easy once you get to that point, because the Common is pretty comprehensive as you go through that process. Again, we do have dual enrollment, so if you're trying to challenge yourself and you want to take some classes kind of similar to an AP type of rigor, we definitely encourage that. And you can see Ms. Stoltz, she's out there, she's our dual enrollment coordinator. I take care of all the internships, so if you're a junior or senior, you want to do an internship, we highly recommend those. There's 75 hours per semester or summer. I really have never said no to a student for an internship, so we really try to work with them to make it work for any time frame or whatever they're thinking about doing. Scholarships, there's 3 different scholarships when it comes to the college process. One, when you apply, you will get them through the admissions merit process. You just apply to college and they give you a merit award. Or there's outside scholarships, there's websites, and those are all on the College and Career website page as well. And then one of the big things with that, you want to make sure is that it's a good vetted site, because there's a lot of, as you guys know out there, cyber stuff with AI and everything now. So if you go to the website, all the ones that are on there are good and vetted. They're not going to steal your name and information. They're not going to ask you for money. If you get to a scholarship site and they say, put your credit card in here, you're in the wrong place, because scholarship equals free money, right? It's the opposite. And then there's the third, which is our NHS Scholarship Night, which Ms. Nelson runs, and she'll be sending information to all the seniors as they go through. So as a junior, it's a good opportunity just to check the website, see all the opportunities that are on there. We'll be sending information as we go. I always like to talk about gap year programs. We have 3 or 4 students that do them every year, if not more, and they come back so excited about their experience and want to share it with everybody. It's just one of those things. For the right student, the gap year can really be beneficial. So if you have questions about that, again, come see your counselor, come see me. We're happy to chat about those and what the right gap year might be. Because some students think, I want to do a gap year and I'm going to take 1 class at NECC and I'll work and that kind of stuff. And that's not a gap year. As soon as you take a college credit, you're now a college student. So it's a little different in that process. So we like to talk about it just so everybody is on the same page with how that goes. If you are an NCAA recruited athlete or hoping to be an NCAA recruited athlete, please make sure you're working with your coaches. Make sure you have your highlight reels ready to go. There's NCAA websites and information I have out on the table, so please make sure you have all that stuff in there. Division I and Division II, very different, where they give out scholarship money. I recently went to an NCAA conference, and there's very few athletes now that are getting full rides anymore. Very few, okay? So if you happen to be one of those elite athletes, awesome. Otherwise, your scholarship will be okay, right? It's going to be one of those things. So Division I, Division II can give those. Division III, you're just excited to play at that school and you want to be there. So again, I have tons of stuff on the website, College and Career, and this is our Instagram page for the guidance page. And I usually tag them and they tag me, so make sure you're seeing that. And then if you're interested in the College Board, again, PSATs, SATs, some of you guys have AP exams will be coming up. Fun times in the spring. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, everything we do, we're trying to lead towards our portrait of a graduate so that students leave here having some sort of post-secondary plan. And we really try to kind of strive towards students being prepared in all these different areas. And I'm sure you've heard it a million times, from Principal Wolf and all the information that we send out. So again, there's a reason why we do these things, and it's to get our students to this point so that they graduate with a plan for what they're going to be doing. Myself and our counseling team really do a great job to help students through that. And again, whatever it might be, college, doing a gap year, military, we want them to understand what that's going to mean and what their plan might be. Again, so let me get out of here for a second before I get Brian up here. And I want to show you when students log in, and you guys, all parents here at the high school have a login to School Links as well. Everything is through Google. I'm going to show you a student demo for juniors, so you guys can see that. and then we'll kind of run in. So when your students log in, this is what they would see. This is our student demo page. So this is their home page, but they can click on their name up here in the top corner, and this brings them to their profile. So all the things they've done so far, either in the onboarding or any of the assessments they've done, will start to show up here. And this profile is actually their resume. So as they go and they fill out the things in these different sections, it starts to fill that information out in their resume in a really nice template that is, if you look over in this corner right here, you can add that to your profile. You can export your resume here either to a Word document or to a Google Doc. So either one that you like. Most people are using Google. But really, as they go through and they're answering all these questions and doing things in these different categories, again, this is my dummy account, so I haven't done a ton. Those experiences and those things that they are want to put in for their awards and achievements and bragging rights, their skills and things that they have. Maybe they speak a couple different languages. They don't have to formulate it in the resume. This does it for them, which we're really excited to be able to have. Most students did, let's see if I can find the video. We had them do that back in November, December during the onward block. So they can have that to go back and watch. Eventually, our goal is to have our 6th graders do it and then watch it again when they become seniors to help them kind of understand what that process was like for them. But all this stuff is here, and they have it for life. Any Newburyport High School student who's using School Links will have this forever. So they come back, do the assessments, come back, use the resume. Maybe they're transferring or they have another reason for coming and needing to get help in here. They'll have this for the rest of their lives. So once they graduate, we get their personal email, we change it over from their school email, and then they have access to this, which is really cool. Again, so this is kind of just a quick snapshot. And then over here, on the other side, I guess, your left, we have everything from like student information, so they can kind of see their own student information. This is where they can explore different assessments and careers, the Learning Hub, and then I really love the Game of Life because they can choose a different career and a different path that they want to do every time, and they can do these things 100 million times. Right? It doesn't. There's no do it once and it's done. So they can continue to go back through here. So that's another thing they'll be doing during onward block. And then here is their plan. So they're going to be doing some goal setting, some SMART goals and professional goals. And then during, this is where we have all the events. So everything that we're having here at the school, we post up on here. Any opportunities we have. So anything I post for internships, any part-time, full-time jobs, anything will be underneath that opportunity board as well. And then this is really for the career part, where they can go to the Career Center, look up jobs, look up what's the ability for this job to have an opening in 5 years when I graduate, or 10 years if I'm going to live in Massachusetts, or is it going to be beneficial for me to move to the West Coast, or maybe be in New Jersey. I don't know. It's going to help you understand for that particular career what the outcomes, what the wages and things are as well too. And then obviously the college piece will be instrumental in the search part. You can do a college search from here, where you get to look up the individual colleges and see all the information for each one. You can have a map view, you can have it individually on there. So every piece of information for that school is all in one place. A lot of UMass Amherst is one of our highest applied schools here at this, given where we live. So here's the overview, right? All of this information in one place about every single school that's on here. So again, this is the research part. This is the part that takes a little bit of time. So the student has to go in and look at these places, and as they do the, as they do the search part, right, and they have these criteria up here at the top, the more criteria that they choose and things they go back and forth gives them that list, right? So when I did this, I chose Massachusetts, public schools, private schools, a different major, and then it gave me this list of schools and then showed me on the map, where they're located. So you can get narrowed down with it, or you can keep it broad, whichever you'd like to do to kind of start that search. So people always ask, like, how do we start? This is it. This is the place to start your search. There's other search engines out there that we recommend as well too, but this is the one that we're all going to work together to keep track of your information. So as you do start to apply, we get to see that as your counseling staff. We see what schools you applied to, we see what schools you haven't. We send all your recommendation letters and your transcripts and school documents right through School Links. So this is one of those things that's it's a communication skill as well too, where we get to use this tool to communicate to each other. So we can keep on track of deadlines and make sure you're keeping on track of deadlines as well too. So that's a quick snippet of School Links. We're going to go over it with all your students in class as well too. and they're using it during onward block. They should be using it during onward block, but I'll go through that. I just want to touch quickly on College Guidance Network. And again, this is really helpful for parents who really want that roadmap, that kind of checklist to help them through the process. Your email that you have in Aspen is what is signed in here. So you would just sign in with that through the Google sign in, and usually everyone has an account just like you all have an account in School Links. And this is where you get started. This is my account. I don't have a dummy account, so it looks a little different than it will for you and your students, but you have all these different categories. There's over, I'm gonna get to it at the end, but there's over 400 different experts. So what College Guidance Network really says is they're experts for everyone everywhere, all digitally. So they do webinars and they record them, and then they post them on here, or you can watch the webinar live. And then they break those webinars down into like 3-minute, 5-minute sections. If you're just looking for information on gap year and you want to watch the whole hour episode, you can just watch that 5 minutes. Or there's information on how to get started. There's a checklist on here. So you guys can kind of put, what's your current roadmap? What does it look like for you currently? And then it can change as you go, right? And it's really a helpful place to go through. That's a free resource for all of you guys to go through. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after Brian goes. So with no further ado, let me get Brian up here and get back to my PowerPoint presentation here. All right, there you go. Do you want this? Okay. Oh, maybe here, I'll turn it on.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Aaron. So my name is Brian Gardner. I am the co-founder and currently serving as executive director for College Affordable. We are a nonprofit. We provide free help to students and families to navigate the whole financial aid complex landscape through your higher education journey. So, but more than anything, I'm a parent. So as recent as last year, I had 3 kids in college. That's actually poor planning, just so you know. It has its advantages, actually, but so I've made just about every mistake you can make in this process. I'm very passionate about it. It's why I co-founded College Affordable. It's touched me personally, not just as a parent, but 40 years ago, when I was going through this process, parents were immigrants, single parent, followed that when I was 13. We had no idea what we were doing back then. Thought I had it all figured out 4 years later or whatever, and realized I didn't. So we're just here to help you. You've got amazing programs here that Aaron's gone through, and so we're very proud to be part of this. This is our 3rd year, I think. 3rd year here. We've helped over 200 families now. We've got about 60 senior families that we're working with, and we already have about 40 junior families that are registered with us. So I always like to do a show of hands. So this is good. This year I can actually see. Last year the lights are in our eyes. So how many of you have registered with us? Have any of you started working with us yet? Oh, I see a hand go up in the back. Sort of, kind of, maybe. Okay, good. That's good. That's good. Hopefully it's been a good experience. I would say pat yourself on the back that you're actually here. It goes by quick. It really does. But to be here, putting the time in, learning all the things you have available to you, and understanding how you have help, and getting real about how you're going to deal with the financial aid, how you're going to pay for college side of things. Most parents aren't doing this, okay? And I was guilty of the same thing. And so pat yourself on the back at least for that, coming out and spending time here. So I'm going to try and tell you everything you need to know about financial aid in the next 2 hours. No, just kidding. So, in the next 10 minutes, I don't know what they have. No, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm hopefully going to try and take some stress out of your life. I'm going to help you understand what you really should know now, the kind of things I wish I knew, and maybe those will be 3 or 4 things, and help you understand what you need to do next and what you do now. And what you do now in these next couple of months is actually probably the most important part of this. And what a lot of families do is they wait to deal with this until senior year rolls around. In a lot of ways, it's too late. It's great that they're doing it then, but being proactive really does pay off here. So hopefully I will convey a few of those things to you. And if you have any questions along the way, raise your hand, and we'll see what we can do for you, okay? Let's show hands. How many of you, this is your first time through this whole process? Yeah, most of you. That's probably why you're here, right? Even if you've been through this before, I guarantee you don't know everything. Okay, there's stuff you don't know, and in some cases, mistakes in this world can be very, very costly. Okay, so don't think that this doesn't matter to you, and it's changing. Things are changing in the state of Massachusetts with community college being free, and just all kinds of macro forces are in play here. And so staying current with this and letting us help you as experts is a very wise move. So, last show of hands. Show of hands, Aaron. How many of you are concerned about how you're going to pay for college? All right, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, in my next life, I'm coming back as you. All right, so here we go. So I mentioned this, we're a nonprofit. The help we provide is free, it's always free, there's no catch. Really, we're not going to come back like 2 years from now and send you an invoice or try and remarket your data, anything like that. We're just, my job, and we've got a wonderful board, a great team, which I'll talk a little bit about next, is to fundraise and evangelize. And so I'm here tonight, I'm evangelizing, because if you don't let us help you, we can't help you. Okay, and as I like to say, don't be that proud dad that thinks he knows everything. That was me. Okay, and so we're up to, I think, about 40 programs across the state that we work with. We helped about 2,500 seniors last year. We've already surpassed that number this year. That was up from 1,000 the year before that. This is a huge need, okay? And we're solving it, and that's something to be very proud of. But again, we can only help you if you let us help you. And it's always free. There's no catch. Okay, that's probably the biggest takeaway. What makes us different? There are other nonprofits that do great work in this space. I think why we've been so successful and we've grown is for a couple of reasons. The first is the team, right? And you're looking at them. And so when you need help, you're going to get someone on the phone, you're going to get someone on Zoom, you're going to be someone who's responding to your email that is a former financial aid officer with typically over 10 years of experience at the college level. So they really know what they're talking about, okay? They've seen it all. The financial aid process is very challenging, particularly when you do the forms, because you have to share a lot of your personal private information to the colleges, right? And I've been around and done this enough. Counselors don't want to talk to you about their financial aid, and I don't want to talk to the counselor at my school about my financial situation, right? There's an inherent problem there, right? You want to have somebody you can talk to that's independent, that's going to keep your information private, that's going to work with you. And this is stressful when you go through this. Family situations and family dynamics are tough, okay? And so just know that when you're working with our folks, they're going to help you through these situations. And they're going to be very effective with that. If not for anything, and I'll talk a little bit about the impacts that we have, but just taking the stress out of this process, starting to take a little more control of it, will hopefully make this more enjoyable for you and your kid. Because I said before, this goes by quick, and then they're gone, okay? And so if there's anything we can do along those lines, then that's very important as well. 2 of our counselors are also bilingual, so we have 2 that are fluent in Spanish. We recognize that need. We're hiring now for another one that's fluent in Portuguese as we continue to grow, but they're great. And if you draw an X through me, because I'm not a financial aid expert, they dummy test everything on me, quite frankly, but it represents about 70 years of experience. Okay, so they really know what they're doing. And just some program highlights. You can read some of these. I'll get right to the punchline on this. Last year, we went back and looked at the award letters of over 700 students that we worked with. And the average additional scholarships and grants, which is the good part of financial aid, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, the part you don't have to pay back. We were 3 times the national average, which is about $18,000 a year. And who has an abacus? Anyone have a calculator? So what's that times 4, right? It's over $70,000 of loans that were avoided by having worked with us. So if you need another reason to work with us, I don't know what it is, okay? So those are real dollars, those are real numbers. And we help in a lot of different ways. It's not just one area with that. So just some important details. Trust is huge. That's why I beg all of the counselors that we have programs with, let me come in and talk so you understand who we are, what we do, and why, what our mission is. Because, again, we can't help you if you let us help you. One of the biggest issues will be trust. Why should I work with these third-party guys and give all my private information if that's what I need to do through this process, right? And we run into this, it's very real. There's also a misunderstanding in this too, and I should have mentioned this before, the things that make us different. We're agnostic, as I like to say. We help everybody, okay? So I had a parent from another school last year, was like, oh my God, I thought you just helped lower income students. I'm like, we help them, but we help everybody. Everybody needs help through this process, okay? And we recognize that. And I think that's in conjunction with us having the team that we have and the personalized support that we provide through this, to know that we help everybody, you know? And I guarantee you, don't think you're not gonna qualify for aid and not do the FAFSA form, okay? This is one of the key takeaways. Every single person should do the FAFSA no matter what, okay? Because your situation can change from one year to the next, all right? So that'll be one of the key takeaways. So, but the trust is huge, your information is private, it's confidential, we always keep it that way. We're just here to help. And as I've said before, and it's highlighted in yellow for bolded for a reason, it's free. And thank you to the Institution for Savings for being our 3-year sponsor, one of our partial sponsors. And again, as we grow, we have more families, I have to get more donors. But that's okay, that's my job, that's what I have to do. I took my daughter back to school last Tuesday, so I'm grieving and I need something to keep me motivated and occupied. So, all right, the next couple slides are pretty important. So the first one here is, why do students and families overpay for college? Okay, I think the more you understand these, then you can understand how we're trying to help you through this. Our job is not to teach you or show you how to cheat the system. Okay, call somebody else, that's not what we do. We're helping you through a process. We're trying to make you an educated consumer, right? 4 of the most expensive colleges in the world from a list price standpoint are in Massachusetts, right? 2 of them are over $100,000 next year. So it's a big purchase, and you have to think of it that way, okay? But why do you overpay? And again, much of what I say up here is because I'm a parent. I'm not wearing a college affordable hat, I'm wearing the garden family hat, so to speak, because I've done all these things. But the first one is not actually sitting down and doing a budget. What can you actually afford, right? And have that conversation with your kid now. Not when they get accepted early decision to Boston College and you have no plan how you're gonna pay that bill, right? Don't go down that path, right? You have to sit down and this is getting real, right? You gotta figure this out, and you have to say, this is what we can afford, and this is what our options are, and you work with us, and you work with Aaron and the great team of counselors you have here, and we'll figure out what those pathways are, okay? There's so many great options now. Community college being free in the state of Massachusetts, the state schools are great, right? The private schools, there's so many options. It's a question of what works, what fits there, okay? But have this conversation early and get real about it. There's no Hail Mary at the end that's gonna figure this out for you. Hope is not a good strategy. The second thing you're gonna bump into is the forms, which are a requirement, particularly for the need-based side of aid, which we'll talk about, are very confusing. It's very easy to make mistakes. And guess what? If you make a mistake and you put an acid in a bucket that you weren't supposed to put it in, it's not gonna say, wrong answer, right? That number's gonna live there, and it's gonna live through the process, and you're gonna hurt yourself through that, okay? The FAFSA, which is the federal form, as I said, everybody should do that, every school takes that, has gotten a lot better. How many dealt with this in 2024? Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun, okay? But we have to give credit where credit's due. It has really gotten a lot better. It only takes a few minutes, the streamline things there, but you can still make mistakes. The profile that is a lot of work. Right? It's a lot more manual entering the CSS profile that goes into that, so it's easy to make mistakes. Some really powerful statistics about this. Forget the errors, right? Roughly half of what are called Pell Grant eligible students. So these are students that get free money, free federal money that they don't have to pay back. Nearly half of them over the last 3 years never completed the FAFSA, which means about $4 billion of free money just never got distributed. Never got to the kids, just because they couldn't complete the FAFSA. And if you watch the students do it now, it's 10, 15 minutes. That includes setting up their FSA ID, right? This is real stuff. Don't be in that category, all right? The next one that comes up, and this is the time, anyone have seniors right now? Okay, yeah, put that hand up, okay? Hopefully we'll see you at the next workshop on that subject, is the award letters. The award letters, and I don't know if you're starting to see these now, but they can be very confusing. There's statistics from the national How America Pays for College, the NCM report, that says 40% of award letters are missing some form of information that you should have related to cost. No, 90% of them, sorry, 90%. 40% of them don't include costs at all. So you have to go someplace else to actually get the list price, and then you have to take the scholarships and the financially package against it, and you have to understand what it is. They're very, very confusing. And it's not getting any easier. You would think that this would be standardized. It's not because of antitrust. That's a whole other presentation. Ain't gonna change. Okay, but in addition to that, most families and students, back to that same report, only 20% of students and family know that you can actually appeal your award letter. And of the 20% that do it, anyone want to guess how the success rate? 80%. Okay, don't be in that 20% that don't do it. Now you know. Okay, you can always appeal. All right, I'll talk a little bit about this later. But it's an intimidating thing to do, especially because the appeal process typically has to be driven by the student. I can't imagine like 18-year-old, 17-year-old kids like calling college and trying to appeal it. So that's the third one. The fourth is this concept of merit aid, which we're going to talk about. Aaron already alluded to it, but most people don't understand how merit aid works and what it actually is. All right, but this is bigger. This is discretionary money that primarily the private colleges use to incent your student to come to their school for whatever the variety of talents that they have. Typically, it's GPA driven, but there's other factors that go into that. But if you don't understand the schools, if you will, that maybe are a little bit better at merit aid, and you don't include them on the list of schools when you go to apply, you're leaving out a whole world of opportunity. My daughter's a great example for this, my youngest. She came home from a college fair junior year, and she probably was watching the NCAA basketball tournament because she had Villanova and Holy Cross and BC. And I said, Elizabeth, those are great schools, and maybe you're going to get into those schools. You're not going to get any merit aid from those schools. Just tell you right now, you have to include other schools on that list, which kind of gets back to having a conversation about budgeting earlier. She actually listens, unlike my sons. And she included some other schools, including Marist, which is where she's now. She got a great package, and she's thriving. Okay? That never would have happened had we not understood the concept and had that conversation up front early in the process. A very real story I could go on and on about. And then lastly is what's mostly in the news, right? It's the loans. The loans are kind of a result of other things that happen, most of which we just talked about, right? But yes, the number one reason why kids drop out of college is what? It's financial, it's not grades, right? Interest rates now on student loans are about 18%. So that's a big number, right? And so you got a kid to understand what they're actually signing up for there. That's why I refer to it as a borderline predatory lending market. So those are the 5 reasons, okay? Now you know, okay? And we're trying to help you around that. So that's the first sort of setting here. The second is this is a journey. You do not just show up senior year and deal with it, okay? I've already alluded to this. You need to start early. I'm gonna give you kind of the tips of the things you need to do now on a couple slides and before we wrap it up on my end. But start early, get informed, and then yes, as you move into senior year, there's gonna be this sort of pressure work that needs to get done. We're gonna help you get done what needs to get done when it needs to get done. In the fall, you have to get forms done, right? I should take a step back. In the spring, it's about understanding affordable options, being open-minded. Where you go to college, where your kid goes to college, is not gonna define their success, okay? Don't lock in on just one school. I think you're giving away a lot of your potential here in terms of bargaining or whatever we want to look at of opportunities to save. If you do that in a lot of cases, it could be the right fit for you. That's why I think you need to talk to the counselors here, and we'll help with those conversations. But that's not going to define their success, right? It's what you've done with them as parents, right? It's their hard work, it's their grit, it's their determination, it's the perseverance, it's the life skills that they're learning here at Newburyport, right? That's what's going to define them. Keep that in mind. All right, but then as you move your way through, we have to get the forms done. That's going to be a challenging process. I already talked about that. Then the award letter is going to start to show up. We're going to help you understand how that works. We'll help you understand local scholarships. Aaron already talked about first place on scholarships is right here. It's the first place you should go to look for this, by the way, before you go searching on the internet for additional ones. But most importantly, as you get to the tail end of this, you then have to go through the same thing each year that you're in college. You have to reapply every year. Your financial situation changes every year, right? Particularly on the need-based side of it. And the colleges, as they go through this process, they only know what they know, and when you complete the FAFSA, you're giving them tax returns from 2 years ago. A lot happens in 2 years, right? So one of the things you need to do is you need to become partners with the college. They're not your enemies or adversaries. The financial aid officers in the department, they're great people. I know them all really well at RPI, Providence, and Marist. But I learned the hard way, they're just here to help. But they may not have all the information, they typically don't, right? So if you have a situation where you had a loss of a job, you had a medical expense, you had to take care of an elderly parent, these are the kind of things that you're gonna wanna share with them through this process. And that's not just senior year when you're applying, it's gonna be thereafter. Another little tip for you. When your kid's at school, on campus, have them go to the financial aid office and say, are there additional scholarships that I can apply for? Now that I'm here on campus, and we typically say, yes, we have this whole other pile of scholarships that you can now apply for. I didn't know that. I only learned that last year when my daughter went to the financial aid office in Marist and asked them, and they said, yeah, we've got this big pile, and she applied for 20 minutes, you get an extra $5,600 that renewed all 4 years. I didn't know that. Now you know that, okay? So this is a journey. Keep that in mind. Okay, some of the brass tacks. What does financial aid mean? I struggle with this a little bit as a parent, okay? It's a package. It's a combination of things that the school is going to provide to you through a fair process that they're trying to administer that will include a couple of things. Grants and scholarships. That's why it's in yellow and gold. That's the stuff you don't have to pay back. That's what you want the most of, okay? But then there's also going to include things like loans, which you do have to pay back. I struggle with that part of a financial aid package, but I get it, okay? And it may include work study as well, and how the schools offer work study can be different school to school, just to confuse you even more, okay? But that's what the term financial aid means. This is what we're giving to you to help you pay to attend our school, all right? Keep in mind that each college will have a different process. It's their money. For the private schools. And in the state schools, they're state schools, and they're different states, right? And so unfortunately, there isn't just one size fits all. And then of course, you have your own individual circumstances that you have to communicate and explain through a process that is really imperfect, okay? And then you've got your deadlines, you've got additional forms that some schools might require, okay, called institutional forms. So you might, for one school, you might actually have to do 3 different forms. And when you apply for scholarships, they will have their own forms, right? So there's a lot of this work that's coming. I look at this as sort of a job, right? These are little projects that you have to manage. They have payback, potentially significant. My favorite part of this, and again, anything that's on it that's yellow and bolded is kind of the key point, right? Don't trust your neighbor, don't trust your cousin, Facebook groups, whatever it might be where people think they know what they're talking about here. Okay, talk to people who really know what they're doing, all right? And it's great if you're a self-starter and you want to do your own research in this, I get it, okay? But I would, even if you think you can research everything in yourself back to, why don't you just talk to the experts, all right? There's no catch and it's free to do that. Did I skip a slide? I did, almost. Okay, so there's 2 kinds of discounts that are in play here. And Aaron already mentioned one of them. So there's what's merit-based and there's need-based, all right? The good news is everything and anything I'm talking about here at the brass tacks level are covered in our next 2 webinars. So you don't have to take great notes. I'm just trying to give you kind of key concepts, okay, early on here. But they're important. And I think, as I said, the more you know now as an educated consumer, the better. The merit-based are the discretionary discounts, mostly for private schools. These are administered through the admissions office. Okay, so this is where they're trying to look at how do we get as many students into the school for all the things that we offer that are great programs that align with the students that we're trying to search for. This is how they primarily, how they do this. What's typically great about these is that they renew all 4 years if we're talking about 4-year colleges, okay? And by the way, we help you whether you're going 2-year, 4-year, vocational, like college affordable, like we have decided to get this. What about vocational schools? Oh, okay, good point, right? But we help everybody. So don't think that we're not here to help you. You still have to get the FAFSA done. You can still apply for scholarships. You still have to potentially look at loans. Okay, so we help everyone too. the merit base is heavily based on academic, right? But it's not exclusively that either, just keep that in mind. And the school may have other requirements. You may actually have to maintain a certain GPA level in order to be, continue to get a presidential scholarship or whatever it is that they're offering to you. Then you have the need base, which is kind of what the name implies, it's been a long day. It's what your need is. It's formulaic. This is where you have to use the forms, okay? The schools and the industry are trying to normalize how information is represented to them, okay? That has to be truthful in terms of determining what you're going to have in terms of need. It is largely driven off of income, okay? Yes, assets matter, but it is mostly driven off of income. And it does get goofy, right? In terms of how this formula works when you have unique family situations. As I alluded to before, our team will help you through all of that. I talked about how we meet everyone here where they are. Maybe I didn't say that. I said we help everybody. And implied in that is we meet you where you are in your journey, okay? If you call us in April of senior year and saying, I have no idea what I'm gonna do, we'll try and help you, okay? But our program is really designed to help you whether you need just a little bit of help, okay? Which is what I was a couple of years ago. I didn't understand that I could make mistakes in my FAFSA, and I didn't know I could do an appeal. I didn't know those things, right? Nobody told me, right? To what I was 4 years ago. So yes, I'm dating myself, which I already explained before. We had no idea what we're doing. We need help with every part of this. And there's all kinds of reasons that can contribute to this, not just income. It could be English as a second language, it could be on a computer, it could be my first time through it, whatever it is. We help those and everyone in between, okay? And the way that we get there is a structured way. It's clearly working. So we've got a great webinar series, which, as I said before, it's what you need to know that time of year, really deep, okay? As opposed to some other alternatives out there, which is you come in for one night in the fall and talk for 2 hours about financial aid, and it's like, oh my God, how do I understand all this stuff, right? I'll watch the recording. No, it's still a lot of information to process. We try and do the opposite. We try and really chunk this down to bits and pieces. And then beyond that, so that's the first step in becoming an educated consumer, is where our team steps in and helps you. Right? Say, oh, okay, I watched that webinar. I still have my own questions though. All right, let's schedule a Zoom call again. Let's figure it out. Okay. Oh, okay, that's great. Can I follow up? Yeah, just shoot me an email, whatever works for you guys. Right? We'll meet you where we are. Including we've got some great self-help tools. And I'll show you the ones here that you're going to want to start with now, which is around this concept of student aid index, which is part of the FAFSA process, but knowing that really is a key asset in this. And then we have workshops. I think Aaron may have mentioned this before. Like, we will come on site and we'll work with students. It's great if they understand how some of these things work. You know, we talk about scholarships now, and going around doing road shows with seniors about understanding award letters and how they can do appeals. You get a lot of blank stares, but then they start to get it, okay? And they're pretty important in this. And as I say to all the students, like, you're becoming young adults, okay? This isn't your parents' problem or your guardian's problem, right? It's yours. You need to be participatory. And so we offer that piece as well, and the same thing for the parents as well. So, so here we go, home stretch. How am I doing? All right, great. What do you need to do now for next steps? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to register with us. So in the slide deck, you've seen the QR code a couple of times about how to go to the landing page for the school. And the landing page has actually, and we'll cover this in the first and second webinar that are coming up to help you get oriented around. There's a lot of great stuff in there. But you gotta register with us because we can't help you if you're not part of a college affordable program. You have to acknowledge our privacy policy, and you know, it's just, I wish I could help everybody in the state of Massachusetts, but I can't, right? So we're very, very, very lucky to have this program here. So you need to register with us. It's very simple. We're not gathering any private information from you. We just want to know how to get in contact with you. So when you reach out to us, we know who you're affiliated with. And in there's the option to register for our webinar series. I would just register for all of them. There's a button to do that. You'll automatically get the calendar invite. The real power of it, if you can't make the webinar, that's Thursday night at 6:30 once a month, which I can never make because my kids are always playing sports or act drama or whatever they were doing. You get the recordings. So you can watch it Sunday morning, right? A cup of coffee, whatever. and at your own pace and really digest it. So that's what most folks actually do. But the next two that are coming up, and you see the date on here, so February 12th and March 13th are specifically geared toward junior families. Okay, the one we just did in January for you was for seniors around awards and appeals. The one we do in April is around loans. The one we'll do in May is actually for sophomores and freshmen and underclass by popular demand. A lot of families are like, can you help us start earlier? Okay, great. We'll have a webinar and we'll get going at it and we'll start to help them. But I would go, this is a great starting point. It's going to go a lot deeper into what I covered today, and I'll always have that. And the rest of what's on here is like, it's just about getting educated, right? I probably should have bolded the last point that's on here. And I offer this to every family, right? Maybe your starting point after you register is just to schedule a Zoom call with our team. I'm just new at this, here's my situation. Oh, by the way, how many of you have kids in college right now? Yeah, so we'll help you, but we'll help those kids too, okay? I get this a lot. This is usually the stampede that comes at the end. Yeah, I know, you want to come up right now. I get it. I get it. The good news is we'll help them too. And they can appeal. My oldest son, 5 years at RPI, 7 years at college down the drain. He did masters up there, but appealed every year. Providence appealed every year. My daughter Maris, same sort of thing, great relationship. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in my life. So we help them too. It's not too late, right? It's not too late for that. So that's why, just get connected with our team and start talking about this, start asking the questions. And it's not a one and done. It's okay if you don't have all your questions figured out, but have them sit down, get started. They'll start to take some of the anxiety of this by saying, all right, this is what you really need to do next, as an example, okay? I've already alluded to this. I decided to keep this slide in here, is that appeals are really something that's important to understand downstream. I think I've made this point. When you have your award letters, you can submit them to us. We'll put them into a spreadsheet, we'll normalize them, we'll come back and tell you what they actually mean, and then help you figure out if you have an appeal strategy, what that might look like, how to build that relationship with the college. And so, and I already cited the statistics on this, right? 20% don't do it. The ones that do are successful 80% of the time. We saw last year that a couple hundred that we helped with it was about $5,600 a year in typical of additional money that was gained from just, being able to give the colleges more information about their situation, kind of thing. So we got lots of resources for you. I've already mentioned the landing page. And I think it's on the next, I guess I apologize, but on that checklist, you really want to go in and use the self-help tool, which is around calculating your student aid index, knowing that number, and then doing another step, which is called the preliminary eligibility assessment, which is also on the landing page. Again, this is covered in detail in the 2 upcoming webinars. But if you do those 2 steps and you kind of get our team moved in, they're going to have a pretty good handle on the schools you might be thinking about, what you're probably going to get as a package. And that's pretty interesting to know now, right? Because isn't it better to not put a school on your list to apply to that you know what the answer is going to be? I don't know, if you want to still go and do that, have that uncomfortable conversation with your kid, be my guest, but I think it's, again, these are all things I wish I had done. So, but that's why these 2 things are highlighted. The student aid index, which we've got a real simple calculator that does that, estimator, and then the eligibility assessment that I mentioned. So that's everything that I had. This is how you get in contact with us. Aaron's going to make these slides available. You can call, email, schedule a Zoom call, do the registration. When I usually do workshops with the kids, I always have trivia at the end. And I leave this same slide up there, and I ask sports questions and science questions, and then I say, all right, last question, what's College Affordable's phone number? And I leave it up there, and it's just amazing how many kids they're like, I don't know. The sharp ones always figure it out. We always say the best price for that. But kind of kidding aside. And the other thing I would say is you put in your kids' email, or as they interact with us, don't use your school email. You really want to use your personal. Why? Because we're going to help them for the next 2, 4, 6 years. All right, so that's, school emails go away in a lot of cases the day they walk out the door. So it's one of the two for you. So thank you. Turn it back to Aaron. Any general questions? Anything? Yeah.
I do have a question. Just looking at the QR code, like our high school is not listed on here. We don't go to this high school.
Oh.
So how does that work?
Oh, you go to a different school. It's not one of our partner programs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we try, this happens, and we always say, hey, we want to help as many schools as we can, but we still have to be part of the program. But let's talk separately. Let's see.
Okay, so it's not for individuals to reach out to you, you have to partner with the school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot you had other schools, Karen, so apologize.
No, that's okay.
But yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but we're adding schools. You know, which school is it?
Okay.
Okay, hopefully we can add them soon. But I got this, we have 12 schools on the waiting list right now, so you can imagine the demand is there. Yeah. Oh, Ipswich. Okay. I'd love to have a program at Ipswich. I was at the YMCA this afternoon. I couldn't get a lane in the pool, but okay. Other questions? Okay, pat yourself on the back. You're here, and you're getting after this, and we're here to help. So, get back. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so while I wrap up with going through some CGN information, I'm going to have our college panelists come up and join us to get them set. So just for the people who aren't from NHS in the room, one, thank you guys for coming, awesome. And yeah, please shoot me an email. I send so much stuff to your guidance counselor office, and we share all this information. So we'd love to be able to help get college affordable or any other programs and stuff we're working with your schools as well too. So I'm all about sharing everything. All right, so as I said, CGN, experts for everyone, everywhere. You know, they come on guys, come sit. So all the stuff is recorded, they're on there. You can hear from really amazing people out in the world of higher ed and financial aid and gap years and all that kind of stuff. It really helps benefit the personalized roadmap. Keeps you on track so that you and your family can kind of do have a checklist to make sure you're checking things off. And then again, over 400 different experts in a wide variety of areas as well. They have Eva, which is their AI, closed, right? So it's an agent within all the videos and the 400 people. So it's not taking information from the internet, it's just from CGN. So you can ask it a specific question, and we'll give you information and send you right to that video or right to that expert's information, which is really cool. And it's 24/7, you know, so if we're not around or it's during the summer, you have access to that as well too. And again, it works with any of the softwares. We have school links at any of those schools that have something different. You can utilize that too. Again, you can create your account. Everybody has an account that's an NHS student and parent. You're just using your email that you use through Aspen. So again, thank you guys for hanging out with us. All right, so we're gonna get to our panel discussion now. And I have some great questions I'm gonna ask. But if you guys have questions you've been really wanting to get done, please just let me know. I'm actually, guys, I'm gonna turn the screen off just so I can get into my questions here if people want to ask me. Let's close this. Awesome. All right. So first I'm gonna have, I'm gonna start with you, Jowry, and just have everybody go down the line, just kind of introduce themselves, you know, where you're at and, you know, what you love about your job. No, I'll let you guys introduce yourself. I've known most of these people for a really long time, so there is a reason I've asked them, because I know that they love talking about their schools, but they also just love the process. And I think that's why I love having a panel of such amazing people who, yes, they're obviously here to represent their schools, but just the process. They want you guys to be successful no matter what. So go ahead, Darren.
Awesome.
So,
Hello.
yeah.
Hello. Good. Hello, everybody. My name is Dowdy Torres. I am the Associate Director of National Recruitment at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. I always have to be very clear that we're in Ohio. I've been in the fields of admission now for about 15 years. Prior to my time at Miami, I was at Merrimack. Before that, I was at Keene State. And then before that, I was at Fisher College. So I have a very wealth of knowledge in working at a small school and now a predominantly big public institution in the state of Ohio. So I'm excited to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin Benjamin. I'm a senior admissions officer at the University of Connecticut. I've been at UCONN since 2018, but in college admissions in general since 2014. Previous to my time at UCONN, I worked in admissions at the University of Hartford, which is where I went to school, and how I kind of got into admissions. So yeah, and I do recruit in this area, including Newburyport High School, but all of New England as well. So yeah, thank you for coming.
Hi everyone, my name is Karen Mariani. I am the Associate Director of Regional Admissions for High Point University, which is located in High Point, North Carolina, where they're all panicking right now because of the snow and the ice. Yeah, it's crazy. They showed a picture of the war room of them all planning about what they're gonna do and everything. High Point is my fourth institution. I've been on both selective, not selective, public, private institutions, and I am in my 12th year at the university. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lee Joyce. I am an associate director at Saint Anselm College. We're about an hour north in New Hampshire. I'm very partial to Saint Anselm. I've spent most of my career here. 11 people in my family have gone to Saint Anselm College. That being said, my favorite part about my job is I find nothing more interesting than a 17-year-old person on the cusp of their next big adventure, right? Like it's so exciting. College can be such a great experience. So although I'm excited about my own school, I'm just excited about college in general. So I just love the whole thing.
Awesome. I have to tell you guys, when my juniors and seniors come down for our college visits and these guys come in, like the groups that are there with these guys, like the enthusiasm that comes out of them is the reason that I asked them to come down. Because other people talk about their schools and but like it's love. I love it. It's great. So before I start asking all my questions, does anyone have a pressing question they want to ask, either a specific school or just in general that they want to go through? And again, you can email and do the chat if you want to do that, or you can raise your hand. Yes, go ahead.
Do you encourage a visit, strongly encourage a visit prior to application, and is that part of the acceptance?
Well, you're talking about demonstrated interest. I'll put it out there. And so demonstrated interest can be a multitude of things. And I'm gonna be very honest. At High Point, I am gonna look at it because we are in North Carolina. It's a 12-hour car ride. Now, that doesn't mean you gotta get on a plane and get to North Carolina. It could be when I come to visit Newbury High School. It could be at a college fair. It could be that your student and I meet one-on-one. Those are showing your interest. At the end of the day, and I tell all students this, you're probably not gonna make a college decision until you actually step foot on that campus. You need to envision, right? And so with Dari and I, we're probably the farthest ones away, and we know it's not as easy to get down there. So you can demonstrate it in a variety of ways at some point, and I tell students when I would go, when I meet with them, I say, this is where you should visit our campus. And you are gonna need to step foot on that campus to experience it and for students to know whether that's the right place for them.
Got it.
And to kind of piggyback on that, I think it's also very important as you're kind of looking at schools, that you kind of look, when you're looking at the whole process of visiting schools, a lot of schools have different options in regards to like programming and events. But they fly students to their campuses. They have like, for example, with us, we have the Bridges program that usually happens in November, where we actually pay for a portion of students' flights to come down to campus. And then also, if they do the program, they also get an additional scholarship just by them attending that program. So, and again, that's just Miami. I think that there's so many schools that have a lot of different options in regards to visiting that are so important, just because now, as we're seeing more and more schools, there, as you probably have all heard in the news, record number of applications here, 100,000, 70,000, and all of our schools were getting more and more applications. Demonstrative interest is actually a way for us to kind of look at students that are really interested in our schools. So as you're kind of looking at schools, kind of asking the question specifically with demonstrative interest, is that something that schools are looking into in regards to what decisions are making. Like for example, with us, there are situations that students with amazing GPAs didn't get into some of our competitive programs just because they didn't show demonstrative interest. So I would highly encourage you to, with any schools that you're looking at, to kind of have this conversation with us in admission. Because again, our job, I would say, our job in admission is to help students through the process. A lot of times students always feel like, oh my God, admission, they're scary people. And as you can see, we are not. We could be the furthest away from scary. But again, we're trying to help our students, help you figure out if our institution is going to be the right fit for you at the end of the day.
So if you guys are hearing that word, demonstrated interest, right, that term, and there are some schools that are keeping very strong track of that and are using it as a checklist and say, all right, we have these amount of students and these students have visited and these students have come to visit, blah, blah. Then there's some schools who just see it. And it can be helpful in the process, but it might not make or break. But they're keeping track of it for their own data and stuff like that as well too. Just quickly, can you each just say whether you keep track of it and or use it?
I keep track of it and I also use it for certain programs. Like for example, with us, we only use it for nursing and business.
We don't at UConn for any of our programs or for admission purposes at all, but we do, keep track of the things that you're doing if you're interacting with us at high school visits, college fairs, visits to campus. Like we do see that when we're reviewing your application, but formally it's not. We don't formally track it.
We track it.
We do too. It varies, but I was reading an application today and the student was right on the bubble that they'd been for a visit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I tipped into yes, so yeah.
It can help. All right, anybody else? Yeah.
As a junior, when do you start, like, if there's already a list of schools that we have in mind, is it a matter of picking up the phone, calling admissions and say, hey, when can we come visit? Or is there an application process that says, I want to come visit, help me get there?
Yeah, it's usually on the college's website and then go through that, but I'll let these guys answer that question as well too. You want to talk about case visit?
You can go right on the website and see when we're open. I know at High Point we do visits 7 days a week. Now there's certain holidays, but we do them. And I have freshmen, sophomores, I've had 8th graders come. I'm not saying you need to do that, but you can visit anytime. And I'm gonna be honest, the more you visit, the better sense your student is gonna know what size institution that they want. And I'll be honest, my daughter, when she was the first one, I'm not saying we should do this, but she visited 15 colleges. She chose the 15th one. Right? Now, that is not everybody, but we had to kind of figure out, because she beats to a different drummer, I guess I would say, so we had to try to find the right place for her.
Yeah.
For schools that have summer programs for juniors, and if your child has done that, would you say I understand Sharon speaking, but would you say in the application process that is equates to demonstrated interest, or does that hold a little bit more weight in the admission process? Having them have done like a summer program at the school.
Anybody have something?
Well, I do. I have a summer program. So with us, with our summer scholars program, a lot of times with a lot of our students, that does show that they're very interested in the school. So, but the great thing is that we're doing a summer program is that the students are able to put that information on the Common App. And a lot of the schools, when they get the application, they'll just show that a student is aware of college and is kind of in the process of like college readiness. So I think it does help the overall pool or the overall application as the student is going through the application process.
Have you guys seen when a student applies that went to another summer school, right? You don't see that as a bad thing, right? That they're like, oh, I went to Northeastern, blah, blah, blah. It can be a positive thing, even if it's not from that institution, right?
Same thing as like students take a gap year too. I think that there's a lot of misconception of like, oh, I'm not gonna be in school for a year. Is that gonna be okay? At the end of the day, every single student that's gonna go through this process is gonna go through this process individually. So I think that students should not pay attention to what other people are doing, because again, it's their own path as they're kind of going through the process.
All right, Caitlin, I'm gonna ask you my first question. How many letters of recommendation do you really need and or want?
So,
Yes.
okay, so for UConn, we actually don't require letters of recommendation as part of our requirements. However, whenever I meet with students and do presentations, I always encourage it. So we know students are getting letters for the other schools that they're applying to. You're more than welcome to have your counselors submit those to us as well. We get them, we read them. And really, the more information that we have about you outside of just what your grades are showing us, the better. So definitely feel free to send those in. As far as the number, because they're optional, and not, I mean, for me, to be honest, I would say 4. I feel like 4 is a good number. Just me. 4 is a good number, I feel like, for me, just because, you can get, teachers or a counselor, letters that can really speak to your character, your growth throughout your time in high school. All of that is super important, and again, shows us really who you are, what you've been involved in, what you're passionate about, and those characteristics that we really can't see otherwise. So, but yeah, if I had to give a number, I'd say 4.
When we require or recommend highly that our students do 2 teacher recommendations, and then sometimes the other people could be an outside employer or an internship person or a religious leader or a community member that they did so 2 teachers and then the additional ones, and those are all things that school links and Common App will tell you, right? That a school doesn't take it, or that they require 2, or that they require 4, right? So all those things are good. But we tend to see most of them requiring at least 1 and 2 for the most part from teachers, right? So very specifically teachers, right? The others are called other recommenders outside of that. Good. Any other questions come up yet? Yeah.
Follow-up questions about letter of recommendations. Say if students were to apply 12 schools, with schools submitting 2 letters of recommendations. Do we expect each teachers to write 12 times or just 1 and then make copies of it?
Yeah. Yep. So they write 1. Sorry. So the question was, how many do the teachers write different letters of recommendation for each school? The teacher writes 1 letter of recommendation for that student, right? And then that gets uploaded into School Links or whatever. I'm pretty sure Switch has not answer score or something like that. It'll get uploaded through there and then sent to every different school, all 12 that are on the list. So each teacher at every school has a different letter of recommendation policy and process. They want to find out what that is. Our teachers do have the right to say no. Most of them have 10 to 20 that they'll say yes to. So again, depending on the student. And every school, kind of tells when their students to ask. We say usually late May, early June here at NHS. That's a great question. Anything else? Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, as far as like college essays go, is it 1 essay that you're using for all the schools, or is it based on what you potentially could be going to school for at that particular school?
You want to take the essay?
Yeah.
Aren't they so polite? I love it. Well, because we all like each other. We don't want to stumble on. And I think when it comes to the college essay, there's so many different. Obviously, with the Common App, there's different scenarios that you could just submit that one Common App and it goes to all different schools. Some schools have their own application that they'll have their own specific questions. So kind of looking at every single school and seeing what they're looking for. What I always tell students is that it's so important when you're doing the essay that you write about something that you're passionate about that really showcases who you are. Because during the application, we're already seeing your academics, we're already seeing what you do in school, we're already seeing what you do after school. But I always say that essay should be like the cherry on top of the application to give us kind of like that full circle of the student's file. One other thing that I always like to mention specifically also with the college essay, a lot of schools will also have Thank you. Supplemental ones, and making sure that you put as much effort on those as you do the Common App essay, because it's happened a lot lately where I've been getting a lot of my supplemental ones that students are not putting the same effort. And it's not that I'm going to deny the student based on that, but it takes me out of, what I thought about the student in the process. So just making sure that you kind of put the same effort that you do on both essays. And also you have some schools that have like optional essays that you can attach. I always say if it's optional, do it, because again, it just gives the institution a little bit more opportunity to get to know you, the student, in the process.
And Lee, I was going to ask you a question about essays, so do you want to
Sure.
piggyback on that? So I was going to ask Lee, similar, like what did she like to read in the college essay, and what are you really looking for?
I have very strong opinions, but I have to read a lot of them. I might be the oldest person in the room, as my brother, but like a lot of these. I like a good story about the student. It could be the most mundane thing, but you hear a student's voice, you hear what a student likes, sometimes what they don't like. It's incredible what you can hear between the lines, whether they, loyal to their friends, whether they love their families. Some of the best essays are about family vacations, part-time jobs, hanging out with friends, bus rides to and from sporting events. They tell a story and the student's perspective about something. What I try to warn students about is, I've been using the word crabbing or griping about things. It's an easy thing to do. You're like, okay, what really gets me revved up? I feel strongly about this, but make sure that it's not a place where you want to wave your dirty laundry around. We all have dirty laundry, but it's just not something that you want to wave around to a stranger. At the end of the essay, the whole point of it is that you want this person reading it to like you. They've already made a judgment call about your academic muscle by poring over your transcript. The essay is like, okay, this is who I am. I'm a very likable person. And so hopefully your essay tells a story in which you are looking at your best. And that's the whole point of an essay to me.
Now, in the world of AI that we all now live in, right? And honestly, have been living in for a while. It's more open, right? Are you guys taking essays and running them through a system right now to say, hey, this one might be flagged for a certain amount? Because again, every school has different policies that they're going through.
We don't run them through a system, but if you've been reading applications long enough, the 17-year-olds don't use a word like panoply or lovely, or they just don't. Like, I'm like, wow, what a highly sophisticated, complicated, inverted sentence. I love it. But those 17-year-olds don't write like that, especially if they have a B in CP English. Like, no, I'm not buying this.
And that's a great piece that Lee brings up. Like, part of their job is almost being like a lawyer, right? And if you think of it, but I go back to Tower, like, they're admissions people. The name is right there. They want to admit you, right? So they are your positive lawyers. They're already on your case. They're already on your side. Give them as much evidence as you can, right? And doing that when they're reading between the lines and you're taking, CP English and you have an amazing letter, right? Either you got help, which is okay, but it's not your voice, right? You want those things to match. That's part of their job as they're going through that. Or if you're the opposite and you are an AP English and you've taken, you have a 5 in your exam, like, you should have a well-written essay, right? That should be from your voice and going through that. So that's really helpful. All right, any other questions that can come up? Yeah.
So regarding the SAT optional, so I assume that the school's SAT optional are not going to say, are not going to communicate the SAT scores that they like to see. So what would you recommend? Like, I've been told that if you do good enough, obviously submit them, but if you don't. So what would you say is a good score to submit?
I think it's going to be different, school to school, but that's what's great about having those relationships with your admission counselors from those schools is you could ask those questions and we'll be, upfront and honest. At UCONN, we're test optional, so it is, up to the student to decide if they'd like to submit them or not. If they don't submit their scores, that's totally fine. In that case, we end up using, their high school transcript for a bulk of that academic part of the review. We do a holistic review, so every other part of the application their extracurricular involvements, leadership role, service work, their essay, letters of rec, like all of that also play a part too. Academically though, it would fall on that high school transcript. So if a student feels confident in that, and they feel like maybe their test scores aren't, at that same kind of caliber, then we'd say, don't feel the need to submit them. But if they feel like their scores would enhance their application in any way, and then when we share our middle 50%, for what we saw last year, they can kind of use that as a guideline to decide, okay, here's where my scores fall, here's where my GPA is, maybe my test score will actually kind of bump up my academic review. In that case, we welcome the score. But it is optional, so students don't have to if they feel like it's not reflective of their, academic potential. I think it's also important just on this topic to, for students to also inquire about test blind and what that means too. And so there are some schools that allow students to submit their test scores, and with the test blind, if it's not favorable for their admissions decision, then some schools can just kind of ignore it and use the transcripts instead to do their academic part of their review. Some schools do that. At UCONN, we're test optional but not test blind. So if a student is submitting their score, and unfortunately if it doesn't favor that academic part of the review because they've chosen to apply test considered, it'll be used in our review no matter what. So that's what's, I think, super important about having these relationships with the counselors at the schools you're thinking about, because they can be really real, raw, honest about their specific school's, situation. So.
David, want to touch on?
And also to kind of piggyback on that, some schools are also test flexible, which I actually learned 2 years ago with my niece going through this process, where you can actually submit other scores, like AP scores and things like that. So that's why it's very important that when the college fair happens here in a couple, when is it, April 2nd? April 2nd, make sure you come to the college fair and talk to the representatives, because they'll be able to tell you specifically what type of things they look for during the application process.
Good question, back there.
I was just wondering, what type of study abroad programs do you have for colleges, and if it's kind of built up around your specific major as to where you go to these places?
Anybody?
My sense is we all have study abroad. The types of programs are going to be very different. So, for example, at High Point, we have a 2-week, a month, a semester, a summer, or a year. All this. Some are very specific. So, for example, students in our interior design and fashion merchandising, we have a very specific program for them in Italy. Doesn't mean you have to do that, but so some, no, I'm going to go to Australia, or I'm going to go to Spain. But typically, they all offer them. The other piece you'll have to look is whether they're exchange or affiliate partners. They can get very nitty-gritty, but every school is going to have a study abroad information night that you can go and learn about what's the best option, because you want to make sure wherever you go, all your credit comes back, and what they allow and what they don't allow.
Anybody else want to?
And some schools have a really big study abroad culture, and some do not. So almost everybody offers it, but at some colleges you'll find 70% of the students are studying abroad. So it's just something that almost everybody does, and that might be your total jam. And then there are other colleges, the students don't want to study abroad because they don't want to miss out on what's going on at the college. So it kind of is a culture thing at many schools as well.
There's also some schools that are using it as a recruitment tool to keep freshmen, because they don't have enough room on campus. So they're like, yes, you're accepted if you're going to Germany your first semester. And you're like, what? But that could be an option if that's something exciting for you, right? So there are many different opportunities at some of those schools, and I go exactly what Daria was just saying. Ask, right? Talk to your admissions people when you're at the fairs and at the visits. Is that something that you do? How does that work at your school? Because they're all going to have an office of study abroad or office for supporting you for whatever. It's just you got to go there and figure out each individual school does it a little different. Great. Anybody else? I'll keep going. All right. Let's see. Who do I want to ask? All right, let's go for that. With the early, does your school offer early action? And if so, talk a little about the deadlines and the differences with your deadlines for the application process.
Yes, so with our process at Miami, we have a couple different deadlines. So we have early decision, early action 1 and 2, and then regular decision. So what we advise students is to kind of see where you are at the point of applying. Obviously, with the early decision component, that is a binding agreement. So any school that you're looking at that you're applying ED, that's your #1 school. I always, I know my dean always, what I say is like, if you're looking at a school, is specifically ED, basically what you're doing is that you're getting on one knees and you're proposing to that school, and if that school says yes, you're gonna get married there. So I always tell students, I'm always very cautious when it comes to ED, because again, if finances are a big component of the process, then I always try to steer away students from that, because again, if you wanna see what the financial opportunities are, EA, early action, still gives you the same opportunities in regards to what opportunities are available. You'll still find out early, and you still have until May 1st to make a decision. So it still gives you a flexibility in regards to what the application process is going to be about. But a lot of schools, we are noticing over the years that students are applying earlier and earlier. For example, this year with us, we saw a record number of applications in our EA1 pool, which again, is just something that we're seeing across the board with a lot of colleges and universities across the country, that students are just applying earlier, just because we get it. You just want to submit your application, and you just want to know, and we get it. You know, I buy stuff on Amazon, and 2-day shipping is clearly not enough for me. So I get it when you want to make a decision, but just keep in mind that when the earlier you apply, doesn't mean you're going to find out that with us, you will find out, because certain schools will also even let you know specifically, okay, you apply, like, for example, with us, you apply by November 1st deadline, you will find out on December 15th. So again, asking those questions with every single school to kind of see which of those deadlines is going to work best for you and your situation, because again, everybody's situation is going to be completely different in the process.
Does anybody else have a decision? Yes. Yeah,
I feel the
everybody.
same way.
Okay.
Probably, I'm a mother of 4 children, and again, it's like proposing marriage, and it can be a great golden ticket, especially for incredibly selective schools where you're reading like 80% of, University of Chicago's freshman class was enrolled using ED, or like, yes. But yikes, things, you don't see what other colleges might give you for scholarships, and you just don't know between November 15th and April 15th what kinds of things can change. Or a lot of students from well-to-do families, they're making their tours of colleges in April of their junior year, so they're 17 or maybe even 16, and they're deciding, okay, this is my ED school at 16.
Sorry. And as you guys grabbed, and again, I'm going to send everything out after as well. The quick fact sheet has all those broken down. So the difference between early action or early decision, regular rolling, all that is on there as well too. Because early decision is binding. You can only apply to one school early decision. You're going to sign off on that by doing an application. Mom and dad sign off on it as well for the application, and your counselor, whoever you have, will be signing off on that. So there's going to be multiple discussions about why you're deciding. And we do see an increase in our students doing early decision. We have really intense conversations about it. So it's not something that students don't do. We make sure 110% that's where they want to go. And this comes from, I did early decision back in the day. But I had other schools I was accepted to as well. I just had to turn them down because I went to that one school. So again, you have to make those decisions, talk to your counselors, figure out what that's going to be. And for early decision, you should be definitely visiting at least once, if not more times, to make sure you really, really, really want to be on that campus and spend the next 4 to 6 years there. Anything else? I can keep going.
And I'm just going to add to, if your student is an athlete, a recruited athlete, most of those coaches are going to tell you to go ED. I work for a Division I school, but I also have 3 children, and 2 of mine are athletes. And I knew right going in, those coaches want to lock you in and get done their class. So if you are an athlete, do not be surprised that that coach is going to tell you you need to play or a decision.
All right, so Karen, can you let's talk about how the student's transcript plays an important part in the admissions process, and how you guys are looking at that weighted, non-weighted.
The transcript trumps it all. I'm going to be honest. That is the first thing that we are going to look at because we want to make sure that you are academically prepared to come and do college level work. It is all of our jobs to look at your transcript to understand the system at the school. And that is our job. So all your schools, all the high schools will send us a profile. And that's our job to read it, understand it, know it inside and out. If we don't, we pick up the phone and we call Erin and say, help me understand this. So for example, you know, if they don't offer honors or you have restricted AP or Phillips is 1 through 6, right?
Yeah.
Phillips Academy, they don't give grades, they give numbers 1 through 6. That is our job to figure that out about where those students fall. There's some schools that give narratives. I hate them too. So they give narratives like, okay, really? How do I know if you know college? How do I know if you know math? That's really what the challenge is. So yes, we do look at the transcript from beginning to end. We personally recalculate. We'll recalculate it, put you on an even playing field, and then I go back in and look at your levels, when you're able to take the levels, and what's the highest you do in your classes. Now, I'll be honest, and this is a true story, I had a Zoom call last night with a young lady, and she took a gap year. And then she attended a very good private school. I know everyone here knows it. I know the school well. I'm like, this doesn't seem right to me. I'm so glad. So she took a gap year. She ended up working with an LPGA coach. She thought she was going to go the big golf route. But then I looked at the senior grades, and they went like this. Okay, that's not what I want to see. Come to find out, poor thing, second semester senior year, she suffered a really bad concussion. That put that into context for me, why we went the other way. And so that information is really helpful. Not that I want to see anybody get sick or injured, it happens. It helps for us to know. So when I review this, take it to committee, I can say, we had this 35-minute conversation last night, let me tell you about this. So those things are really helpful for us to know. Yes, someone in the back.
So I guess kind of a two-part question to that one. So the first is, it sounds like you look at cumulative, because I think people get so hung up on GPA and, 3.5 unweighted, 4 point, I don't know, I don't know how they weight things and everything. But, so do you look at kind of growth from freshman year
Yes.
through senior year? And then say there is an instance where there was an injury or an event, how do you communicate that to the college in terms of this transcript? Does that come across through conversations with the admissions counselors, or does that come across, how does that?
All of the above. So
Okay.
yeah, we like to see the upward growth. So a lot of times I see students that may go from public into private, that first year they tank. And then it goes up. I mean, and we see all of the above. I think Milton Academy doesn't even give grades now for 9th grade, right? Yeah, they don't, Milton Academy doesn't even give grades for 9th grade. It's all pass fail, right? There's a whole thought process on that. So, because they have kids coming in and it's not equitable and they're not performing well, there's a whole story with that one. So communicate with me in the guidance counselor letter, the multitude of ways that you can tell us. But it is important for us to know, because otherwise I'm gonna say, oh, the kid just slacked up, right? And I've had those students. Yeah, Karen, I hated school and I didn't do it. I noticed. But then, I had this young woman last night who had a serious concussion, and having had a child that had a concussion, you can't do anything. You're in a dark room. all day, and it depends on the school and how they make you make up work. It just, that information is really helpful. Or, God, last night was the night. I had a student I spoke to, she is epileptic, and so she had to have a device put in her brain. She was telling us, I understood now the transcript why it was like this. That information is really helpful.
Remember how I said they're like your lawyers?
Yeah.
Right? So you need to give them every piece of that so that they're putting those puzzles together to support you. And yes, you can ask your counselor to write that in their letter. Your essay could be about it. You could do your supplemental, maybe that's on it. There's an additional information piece on the Common App where you can put it. So we will, if that's something you want to get done, you let your counselor write it, we'll make sure it gets in there some way, shape, or form. Sorry, Kate.
I was gonna add the additional info section.
Follow-up, would you recommend the student make it part of their essay?
Part of the
If
essay?
they have like an unusual semester or year-long situations, unusual that impact with their performance?
Well, as Caitlin said, there's an additional information section of part of the application. You could add it there. And then maybe your essay is about your trip to Australia or whatever you're writing about. So there is an opportunity for you to add it into the application. And many times too, the counselor is really helpful in sharing that. So I have a student now, concussion has all incompletes. So I have to wait until the student is well enough to go back to school. I want to be as fair as I can, but they can't do any schoolwork. So we try to work with the school and work with the student for when they're ready to go back to class.
I mean, the answer is yes, if you felt like that was going to be a helpful essay and it tells them about the student, something, that they persevere, or whatever, right? If it's a great essay, then yes, it can be used. But if it's just to give that one little piece of information and you'd rather write about something else, we can get it in there some other way. Good. Yeah.
Kind of following up to all of this, you talk about the conversations you've had on the phone. What's the typical reason or approach or avenue for kids to, are those interview calls? Are those kids proactively calling saying, who can I just want to understand a little bit of how much that can be led by a student just kind of cold calling. I want to share more information, or is it because it's along the process that might be different for every school?
So I do have students that reach out to me directly. They'll call me or they'll send me an email. This one particular one last night, it was me reaching out to them, only because I knew the school really well, and because I've been doing this so long, there was a disconnect. It's the same thing when you see a student has, a 1490 SAT, and they have all B minuses. Help me understand what's going on. And I think we see that, and we see it the other way around too. So sometimes we try to get some context about what's there. And we love parents. We think you're all wonderful. We do love to hear from the students. And it's okay, I always tell students, let's you and I meet, and then we can bring your parents in. Because you know what, as parents, we want to brag about our kids, right? We love them. They're all Tom Brady's in the world. But I need that student to convey that first, and then I talk with parents.
That's also a good piggyback thing to talk is also if a school has an option to do an interview, definitely take advantage of that. Because at the end of the day, one thing is that you'll notice that yes, we're reading all these applications. A lot of times we don't see the full picture. So if the school has an opportunity for you to do an interview, it will just enhance the application even more. In all the years, unfortunately at Miami, I'm not allowed to do interviews just because of the amount of volume. But at my previous school, like at Merrimack, at Keene State, I always had interviews, and a lot of times it really helped me kind of see the full picture. So again, if the school has an option for an interview, definitely take advantage of that opportunity.
And not every school, but at some schools, if you go for an interview first, the tour is going to be smaller. So that happens at my college, and my son toured a very popular college in Rhode Island, and we were the only people on our tour group, and the other tour group had 50 people on it. And I was like, yes, but your mother knows what she's doing.
We're taking this on the road, by the way. Highlight of my day. But that's a great question. Like we have so many ways for our students to be in touch with them. So when our reps come, I share all that information with you guys and with the students of who's coming, their email, their phone number, everything is sent out. I let you know all the colleges that come to the college fair, who the rep is, and their email, so you can set, so there's so many different ways. If you search that school and admissions staff or meet the staff or something, you can find their information usually there. I'm pretty good at that, so we will find it. If I don't know, most of the time I know someone in the admissions office, and if not, we'll figure it out, we'll find it. Because I do want the students to communicate. I don't do that if I don't need to. I want that communication because, kind of like what Lisa said, like, this is your student's journey, right? And we want them to start taking ownership of that. And that went back to Brian's piece with having that conversation about the financial. Everything now needs to be them taking ownership of this process so that they understand it, right? And they go through, or have conversations about it as we go through it. Yeah.
Follow-up question about interviews. If the school offered interviews, is there any tips about preparations, dress code? These are high school students, they probably never wear business suit before.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let you guys answer. From my side, I do some interview prep. We can get students ready for that. Ask another adult. Honestly, there's some great AI ones they can ask now. And it actually says, I'm going to be interviewing at this college for this major. I'm doing this, and it will ask very pointed questions just to get your brain thinking about what you might have to answer. Dress code, I always say, be yourself. If you're not a shirt and tie guy, don't dress up in a shirt and tie. But look nice, right? Be appropriate. I'll let you guys.
And also when you're thinking about interviews, because again, in all the years I've been doing this, I've done interviews and I'm like, oh my God, that was such a great interview. What was that train wreck that I just went through? So my advice is as you kind of go through this process, specifically with the interview, is that you want to be truly authentic yourself. When I'm doing an interview, in my previous roles, when I was doing interviews, the students that really showcase who they are, where their personalities came through, it really helped me understand who they were. And again, you have students that are very vocal, their personalities just shine like a diamond. But then you also have these students that are very quiet, they're very timid. And again, as long as you showcase who you are and represent that in the interview, I think that you really truly get for the admission representative to get to know you as a person. Because at the end of the day, when we're doing these interviews, it's kind of seeing if you're going to be a good fit for our institution. Because at the end of the day, when we're accepting students, we want to make sure that we're accepting students that are going to come to our institutions and also be successful. So that as you're having that conversation, that you're interested in robotics, you're interested in doing Greek life, you're interested in that raw college sport experience. But again, every single student is going to be different. So as long as you present yourself to the best of your ability, I think that really is what showcases in the interview process.
Do we have any people thinking about nursing in the audience? Okay, cool. Because I want to touch upon that because it's sometimes a little bit different of a beast when it comes to the process. So Caitlin, I'm going to pick on you. Can you talk a little bit about nursing from the admission standpoint and just some of the differences that comes up?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. At UCONN, nursing is probably our most competitive program, and I'm sure that it's probably similar at a lot of institutions, just due to the amount of interest that students, high school students these days are having with nursing, and really any health career, pharmacy, we see it too. So it is pretty competitive. New for us this year, we actually added a nursing supplemental essay. We don't have any other supplements. We just usually require the Common App essay. But due to the amount of interest, we added a supplement so we could really see who is genuinely interested in a nursing career. Why are you passionate about going into the field of nursing? What activities, if any, have you participated in, whether it's shadowing or volunteering at a hospital or being a part of a health organization in high school, the Red Cross Club, any kind of medical experience. What do you have that will help prepare you for a career in nursing? So really that's what our supplemental essay question is asking. And it's new this year, so we haven't admitted our first class yet with that supplement, but I can already tell just from reading these applications that it really, it helps us really see who's genuinely interested in going into a career of nursing and not just selecting it, but they actually want to go pre-med or whatever it might be. So that's new for us this year. So we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I mean, we're looking for really, 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 and I'm sure it's the same at other schools too, strong science students. If you don't like biology, chemistry, don't apply to nursing, because when you get to the program, if you're admitted, it's gonna be crazy and you're not gonna be prepared for it. So that's really what we're looking for is strong science students. For us, bio and chemistry are hard requirements in general, so you have to have that before you graduate. And typically for us, A- or above in your science classes, just due to the competitiveness of the program. But yeah.
Lee, you want to go? I asked Lee only because I recently visited St. A's and loved the new nursing program. Amazing. Like if you're visiting programs, like go see Ribs, go see St. A's. Like there's just some that just do it better because they're smaller and they're able to have those.
And it's old. I mean, we've had one since 1953. I'm so old that in 1995 we couldn't find nurses in our nursing program. Like nobody wanted to be a nurse, but so it's crazy to see, you know, how the pendulum swings. Right now, it is just incredibly competitive, and it's so hard to read the applications. It's so hard to say no to some students who know really wonderful nurses, but they just haven't pulled the science grades together. Yeah, nursing is a tough major to apply to in 2026.
And I will encourage you all, specifically with nursing, if you are interested in it, visit the school. I think it's so important. I think I was very fortunate 2 years ago that my niece was a senior in high school and she wanted nursing. And actually, we did go to St. A's, and I wanted her to go there. I know, I'm really sad. And it was so cool being at the cool uncle visiting schools with her. I had like my glasses on, and I'm like, I'm just a cool uncle visiting schools with her. But it was kind of great for her to just see. Especially all like the lab space, what things are available, you know, the NCLEX pass rate that they have, which is one of the best in New Hampshire. So I think it's so important that, specifically with nursing, that you're doing your research with these programs, because you want to make sure that specifically when you're picking schools, that school's going to have all the things that you need, so that they give you the tools so that you're successful in passing the NCLEX and also getting a job.
And ask about retention rates, ask about, like, I know at one school, if you get anything below an A, B-, they boot you out of the program. Like, those are good things to know about as well.
I really want her to go there. Okay.
And what kind of supports are in place? Like, so not only getting into the program, but once you're there, you know, are the clinicals held at the same time as the lectures? Are the clinicals done within a 10-mile radius or a 20-mile radius or a 50-mile radius, or are there extra fees? Like all of it, you have to be vaccinated, like what kinds of things do you have to do? Nursing's intense, it's wonderful, but it's an intense program.
So if you're a student who wants to go to nursing, or you're a parent and your kid wants to go to nursing, I highly recommend asking the question, are you okay with anything that comes out of a person, right? Think about that is what you're gonna see every single day in your life as you go through it, being a nurse, especially depending on where you're gonna be working, right? So if the answer to that is then probably maybe think of something else. Or getting an internship and see if it is something you can handle, right? Are you the friend that helps out the friend when they're sick? Are you the person in your family that's helping take care of them? And that's probably something innate in you as you go through, right? But if you're the person that sees someone else get sick and runs away to the other room, that might not be something you're good at. Or again, even in business, if you don't like math and you don't like there's certain things you have to have as the background of that. So, all right, I want to be sensitive of time. Any last jarring questions people have? Yeah.
I just have a question about the competitiveness, and I know that you mentioned specifically nursing, but let's say for physics or math or whatever, right? Do you have a limited amount of people that you can admit per degree program? Does that vary from school to school?
That'll vary from school to school, but I'll let anyone specific.
It does vary. So for example, at High Point, we don't admit by major. You can major in whatever you want. You want to go into business, go into business. For nursing, it's pre-nursing, and then you apply into the upper division. Doesn't mean you're gonna stay in nursing, because of the benchmark, but some schools do have limits because they just don't physically have the space or the capacity. We're only a 5,000 student body, so you wanna do it, great. You gotta pass all the metrics to graduate in that particular, and that's one thing we notice with nursing, we see a lot of students leave themselves out. And so then we counsel them and we have a plan B for them in a different field. Because they're not gonna make it through, and we can see that, and so we counsel them and say, here are some other options that you could do.
And for example, with us at Miami, like, it's crazy to say this, but nursing is not our most competitive program. Ours is business. So for example, for this year's incoming class for EA1, we had close to about 14,000 apps, and just for business alone, and we only have 1,200 spots. So you can figure that math out. So with us, it's actually more competitive to get into our business school than it was to nursing this specific year. So I think that it's so important that as you're looking at different schools, you ask the question about your child's what they're interested in, and saying, okay, how competitive is this program at your school? Because some schools it might be more competitive than others. And again, just asking that specific question during when you meet the representative at the college fair. Or, because there's a college fair here, there's also the NACAC in Boston. Again, but just making sure that you're asking those questions early on, just so that you know going in, so that during the admission process that you know what your chances are, specifically for certain programs.
I'll just add on to that too. Some schools also, like us, for example, we allow students to select a first choice major and then a second choice major. So if that first choice program, that first choice major is nursing, it's a competitive program, so we encourage students to select a second choice major that they can be considered for if they're not admissible into that first choice program. So in that way, and even for us too, if for some reason they're not admissible into that second choice program, they're still being considered for admission to UCONN as an undecided major. So they're still given, maximum consideration for the university, regardless of the major that they choose. So some schools do that as well and offer that opportunity for students. So that's also a good, question to ask if you are interested in a competitive program. What are the options if you're not, admitted into that program?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how competitive is the environmental science kind of field right now, and can you foresee this kind of changing in the next couple of years or so? Do you have any
Anybody
thoughts?
have a booming environmental science group?
UCONN has a really great environmental sciences program, environmental studies. We're actually situated in a rural area in Connecticut, Storrs, Connecticut. We have farm on campus, farm animals, lots of really great resources, research opportunities for students interested in pursuing a career in that. So we always have students that are applying into environmental sciences. It's not a competitive program where students are, fighting for spots, whereas like nursing, for example, 2,200 applications, 250-ish spots. Environmental sciences, typically we can, accommodate students who are interested in that if they meet the general kind of admission requirements for the university.
I think it's going to be coming in the near future with everything that's going on in our world, but right now, it's not one of those ones that we hear, right? That's super pressing.
But I do think in the future, especially with global warming, I think sustainability, I think that more and more companies are going that route. So I do think in the near future, I do see it becoming more and more competitive as companies are looking to become more sustainable. As now we're seeing more electric cars. So there's so many different avenues that environmental science is going to the future. So I do, just like the same thing with computer science and data analytics was back in the day. I think that there's always, every couple of years, there's always a new program that's boom. So I think that definitely environmental science is one of those I probably see that possibly in the future.
Yeah, one last question.
Do admissions counselors at a certain school all review applications from a particular high school? Meaning, like, if you got applications from Newburyport high school students, would you be reviewing all of them, or could that be dispersed between you and other colleagues in the admissions office?
Every college does it differently, but in general, the person that you meet at a college fair or who visits the high school develops a relationship with the school counselor and the students and the families they meet. So most of the time, we're assigned areas, right? So I have Essex County, which I love. Oh my God, it's so wonderful. And it's August High School, Ipswich High School, Newburyport, and it's just, and the counselors are wonderful, and the students are wonderful, and I could go on and on about how lucky you all are to be from here. But but most colleges, do you guys run that way as well?
You guys all read by school, right? I would say about 90% of the schools that I know that we work with are individual counselors reviewing, but there are some schools that review by major, like UMass Amherst. When you're applying there, it's by major. So though Alex comes here and meets with our students, he only would read, and he does like business. But so again, it depends on the school.
I just, I guess I want to put my mom hat on. The one advice I can give you is try to enjoy this process with your son or daughter. I know it can get stressful and you get cranky, but try to enjoy it. And I remember when we did it with my daughter and we toured the DC schools. So we did some DC schools and then we did the museums and then we saw the White House. We did a fun trip. And then for students, I know this is hard, but you're your parents' baby. And we hate seeing you go away. We want you to go away. And so it's emotionally hard for us to see our kids. So I always tell families to try to work together, but enjoy the process and use this time on the road trips to have great conversations, not ignore each other or, those type of things. Because you can have a lot of fun when you're doing those trips.
Well, I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. Thank you guys so much for coming around. Applause for planning this today. Thank you guys for, after the whole day of work, they came here after, so I want to thank you. So, again, thank you guys. I'll send everything out in an email later probably next week. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Stay warm this weekend.
I mean, I've already done it.